I just got back from a wonderful workshop in one of my favorite cities, at least in the summer, which is Toronto, Ontario. Way up north in Canada. I consider that way up north. It was a wonderful group, and I haven't done a full in-person workshop in like 6 months. Done a lot of big group kind of leading people around, groups of 30 or 40 people at a conference or something, but I haven't done something that I completely control and teach for basically 8 or 9 hours straight. I haven't done something like that in like 6 months. So Toronto was a wonderful place to start. We had a great group of people that you can see here. I'm gonna go through some of the photos, but they were all at the beginning of this video. Next week, I am heading toward Orlando, and I just announced, we'll see if I can pull this off in such a short time frame. I just announced a workshop in London, in the UK, this September 26th. So it's from 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. Sounds like you might be able to make that. Use the link in this video to get all the details. Send me an email or a message if any other questions. And yeah, I'd love to do another workshop in London. I think I've probably done 5 or 6 at this point, but it's been a little while, at least over a year since I've been there. 2 quick things I want to talk about before I jump into just some of the photos from the workshop. I've had a lot of questions about the new Nikon 35 1.4. I'm almost at my 10,000 image threshold to kind of write and record a full review. But early feeling for this, for me, is that it's fantastic. I love this lens. It's got, on paper, not as wonderful technically as a lot of other lenses, especially a distortion corrected Canon 35 1.4 RF VCM. The longer that lens exists, the more that I hate it. I'm just not gonna lie. But the Nikon version is not as technically perfect as that lens. However, the results that I'm getting right into the raw files without needing any profile distortion are absolutely wonderful. And this thing is super light and nimble, just so easy to shoot with all day, especially if you're primarily a 35mm shooter, which I'm really not. But one other thing I wanted to update here on YouTube, because I'm just terrible about making regular, consistent YouTube videos, is Insight. I launched it earlier this year, and I think I've made 1 video at launch to kind of go through it. And Insight, if you're not aware, it is a service or an app, or I don't know how you want to think about it, that allows you to connect any camera that has FTP support. Can you see the little FTP in the bottom corner of the camera there? Any camera that supports FTP, you just turn on your Wi-Fi hotspot on your phone, your camera will auto-connect. As you're shooting, you can send off any image back of camera, map it to a button, just boom, hit a button, and it'll send within about 2 seconds with no blackout. So why might you send your photo somewhere? Well, Insight does the work of taking your original source image and then creating 4 new pose ideas sent directly to either iMessage or WhatsApp. If you have a preference between either, I know WhatsApp is a lot more popular internationally, but sometimes you get stuck shooting in a certain location, or maybe you go through your normal routine of poses, and maybe you're just playing it safe with your framing, and you always have your couple together. What Insight does is it uses Gen AI technology that I have also trained on 2 million of my photos to create a render of a scene that looks very, oh, Pickles is saying hi. Hey, Pickles. I'm not gonna lift her up because she's kind of heavy. But Pickles is my cat. Hi, girl. I think she missed me from all the travel. But what's amazing is you can send 1 image, you can send a bunch in a row. They get texted to your phone, and if you start to hit that ceiling creatively, boom, you can look at this. And over the past year, I have been just so thrilled with how often it inspires a new idea, and I'm on to the next thing. Not everything it sends is perfect. Sometimes, like in the upper right corner, it adds an extra person's head or something, but that's why it sends 4 ideas. Hopefully you get something from one of them, and you can always just reply with the word again, and it'll resend the same image without you having to do it from your camera. This is a tool that I'm using to just close the gap between generative AI being really useful, but photography not becoming obsolete as a thing. You still have to recognize the idea and realize how to implement with it. But one big update I finally solved for, this is an odd problem that was just on the back burner forever because I really don't shoot in portrait orientation very much. I almost always shoot landscape. But there's an interesting problem if you think about it for a second. If you shoot portrait orientation and you have auto rotate turned off, So by default, I think a lot of cameras are like that, where you have it turned off, you import your photos into Lightroom, and Lightroom shows them all turned on their side. If that's turned off, which a surprising number of people do, well, up until a couple days ago, Insight would interpret it as a side landscape oriented photo and give you results of like people kind of leaning over to the side because it thinks they're laying down or something like that. So I had to build in a visual component to analyze the scene and not just count faces and the number of people. It already did that, but it had to interpret what rotation the photo would need to move in order to be oriented upright, and took a surprising amount of time for me to figure out. But it's working now, and I just took a picture I'm gonna send right now and see what the results are like. If you send it a portrait-oriented photo, as long as it's not too abstract and it has no idea what direction to rotate it, it will rotate it and give you a result that makes sense. So I just sent it this picture, underexposed shot of just looking down at my living room there. And behind the scenes on the back end, it's going to interpret which way to rotate it to set it upright and then add people to the scene. So that's one other cool thing. Insight, if you send it an image that has a person or people in it, it's gonna selectively blur their faces before sending anything to the generative AI, but it's still gonna retain some of the likeness of the person that you're photographing. That makes it, I think, a lot easier for you to visualize in your mind exactly what your next idea could be. But when you send it an image with no people in it at all, Insight just randomly generates people. And I took a lot of time and care to make sure that that was fairly randomized in terms of skin tone and culture and all of that stuff. So here it is. It retained the overall exposure vibe of being underexposed, so it leaned into a silhouette as far as ideas go, which would actually make a lot of sense given how bright my windows are right now and how dark the interior is. And yeah, no leaning people, no skewed leaning people trying to like do the wave or something like that. So I just wanted to make this video to call attention to some Insight updates, let you know that it is fully available. I'm gonna be promoting it a lot more because not only have I tweaked some of the edge cases of problems or things I wanted to refine and make better like this, but I also switched to a brand new server that is very robust and capable of handling thousands and thousands of users if it ever grows to be that popular. Looking through some of these photos, this was just a small studio in Toronto, wonderful top floor, right in the center of downtown. We shot a little bit just around I guess only 2 shots here, and then we came back and did one more around the white walls studio space. They had some backdrops and stuff. There was a plant in the middle of the room that I just kind of moved in front of a white wall to shoot through. And all these are done with my Canon camera, by the way. I did not bring my Nikon. This is with a beautiful 24mm lens that has a very unique sunstar that almost no other lens that I've come across actually can replicate. This is a nice prismed shot just against a big garage, like a parking garage wall. This is a 3-image panorama, so a Brennheiser method to create a really wide field of view with a super, super shallow depth of field. The perspective on this would be the equivalent of like a 40mm f.6 or 0.7, or a lens that just doesn't exist. Just shooting through some trees, just on the street side, in-camera, double exposure. Just playing around. She had a very unique engagement ring that I kind of wanted to hint at a little bit. I guess they're both very much Lord of the Rings fans, and the stone in there had something to do with Lord of the Rings, which I am a fan of, but I'm not sure all about that. Anyway, and then this is just me setting up a flashlight, a special one that I have that's very bright and super dynamic. It does a lot of different looks for just a simple flashlight. Shooting through the Ring of Fire, which I demoed and showed people exactly how to use. The gradient against the wall was the nice kind of added bonus with this. It kind of framed them with the light in the background here that you see. This little edge light against the foreground flare coming in front of them. And there's the beautiful group. So next week in Orlando, it's gonna be a long day. I'm super excited. Hopefully I can see all of you at some point in the future. And yeah, as always, thank you so much for your attention. I'll be back soon. Bye everyone.